The critics have lost. Jalen Hurts has won.
The Bills' playoff loss to the Chiefs.
The loss in the NFC Championship game.
The Auburn Tigers find a way. They take down the Tennessee Vols.
Over the weekend, the Houston Cougars won the game of the year.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Chiefs have made history. They're going back to a third straight Super Bowl.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Going back to the Super Bowl for a third straight year. It's kind of breathtaking, and a lot of us have opinions. Chris, what pops in your mind?
Tell me if you've heard this before. The Chiefs are headed back to the Super Bowl. And actually, tell me if you've heard this before. The Chiefs are headed back to the Super Bowl to play the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hey!
Sounds familiar. We were just here a couple years ago. And everything I remember about that game was the Eagles are going to run over the Chiefs. The Eagles have a fantastic team, and I don't want to talk about that Super Bowl too much, but the parallels are already there. Everybody's talking about how the Eagles just manhandled the Commanders, and we're going to talk about this Chiefs-Bills game. But the point is this sets up just like it did a couple of seasons ago. And don't get me wrong, the Eagles are great, but this was a fun game. Matt, you're at the stadium. The glare from the confetti off the field is coming up there pretty hard. How much fun was that game?
It was a wild one. I mean, it's another classic for this team. I mean, they don't play blowout playoff games. It's been a while since we've seen one. And obviously this team, as you've mentioned, in the situation that they're in, two-time world champions, they get everybody's best shot. And I mean, of the 19 games that they've played so far this season, I think you could probably say they got everybody's best shot maybe 18 times. I mean, there was only maybe one game that maybe their opponent played a stinker. Otherwise, they've gotten everybody's best. And this was another example of that today. I mean, Buffalo played well enough to win, other than the fact that Josh Allen put the ball on the turf a lot and managed to get it back. I mean, that was definitely one of their weaknesses. But this Chiefs team, when the lights are on, they come to play. And they did that in all three phases tonight. Special teams got it done. The defense got it done. Offense got it done. That opening drive was absolutely a work of precision. Had a couple of absolutely incredible stops, even though it looked like the Buffalo was just unstoppable on fourth down. They weren't. They got stops when they needed to. And I mean, you're right, Chris. It is a broken record. I mean, this is the way that this team wins in the postseason, in the playoffs. They win tough games like this. And, you know, once again, it's you. If you end the game with the ball in Mahomes' hand, Mahomes is going to win. The only difference in this game was that he just it was a little easier. He at least got to kneel down to run it out. But there was still a little Mahomes magic that was required to run out the clock. But once again, I mean, it's just whoever ends with the ball last wins. And if it's Mahomes, he's going to win.
And that's the way it rolled out this time. It's rolled out that way in the past. I was a little nervous, Matt. They lost the turnover battle this particular ball game. Generally, especially in close games, it doesn't set you up for success. I think the difference maker was all the stuff that I've been complaining about all season long about having to win ugly and coming down to not getting enough done during the first 57 minutes that you have to win in the last 3. That paid off tonight against a team that you had to put out for 60 minutes. And I think that was the difference in the season. Do you think there was something else?
No, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it. And I mean, I will make it as an amendment to your, losing the turnover battle, because in the one respect that they made up for it was getting fourth down stops. I mean, those are change of possessions. And that was where the Chiefs won this game, because 4th and 5 was huge, but 4th and 1 was just as big in stopping Josh Allen. And I'm sure I've already seen on social media that thing is being dissected to the kingdom come about whether or not Josh Allen was short of the line to get or not. I thought he was live. I thought he was on the replay, and that's how I thought it was. But those were the keys. And yes, hey, the Chiefs went for it on a 4th and 1 or 4th and short. I mean, they converted their 4th down. But think about it. The Bills went for it on 4th down 6 times. And I get a lot of those were 4th and 1s, and those were maybe just easy decisions nowadays. But I mean, to me, if you're going for it 4th down 6 times in a game, even in this day and age when I know the analytics, a lot of the analytics people will tell you to go for it every single time. I mean, you're going for it 6 times. What you're telling me is that you don't think that you can beat this team straight up. And that's where I think that the aggression of the Buffalo Bills themselves. Obviously, they potentially left points, but they did leave points on the field going on 4th down on 2-point conversions. I mean, they cost themselves on some of those 4th downs. I mean, and not playing field position. I mean, I know though, and I saw this online and talking to some of the Buffalo reporters. Fans wanted Sean McDermott to be more aggressive. He was more aggressive today. I'm not sure the addition paid off for them. And once again, it comes down to in games like this, best team, the best coach, best quarterback wins. And today, the better quarterback and the coach were Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
You know, the funny thing to me, when I got asked to be on Locked On today earlier, it was the question of how does this Chiefs team continue to get it done? The simple answer is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that is just the simple answer. And I go back to the first drive of the game for both the Chiefs and the Bills. Go look at the Bills' first drive. Josh Allen came out and almost turned the ball over twice. Not just once, twice on the same drive. And he hasn't turned the ball over all season to that extent. He wasn't locked in this game early on in the game. He got there eventually, but Patrick Mahomes was locked in from the start, and it showed. If they don't turn the ball over in a very uncharacteristic type play for Mahomes with that fumble, I think they score a touchdown there because they weren't not getting stopped. They didn't get to a 3rd down until – I don't even know if they got to 3rd down until maybe the second touchdown drive that they had. I was tracking it, and I was sitting there going, okay, when am I going to get a right one down? It was 1st down, 2nd down, 1st down, 2nd down. And that's what you love to see because this offense was different. And Ryan, you and I talked about this a lot during this week. Hollywood Brown makes a difference in this offense. It is stark how much of a difference he makes in this offense. Matt, what did you see from what Brown was able to do? And the guy that I think is going to stand out from under the radar that I don't think is going to get a game ball but needs recognition is Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's the next segment.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I was so impressed with him. I have to say something to make sure he gets called out.
Considering last week the only wide receiver that caught a pass was Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
And then what did the Chiefs do on the very first drive, very first play? It's Hollywood Brown gets involved. Juju had a couple of big catches. DeAndre Hopkins has a catch. I mean, they got all of those guys. I mean, good grief! I don't think Justin Watson even shows up in the box score because all he has is a 2-point version. Doesn't necessarily go down as a catch in yards, but I mean, he gets a reception. I mean, the entire receiving core was involved in. Unlike last week, where the Chiefs had a very specific game plan against the Texans, where they were going to avoid the corners at all costs, they used wide receivers as decoys to clear out the middle of the field. Today, there were no decoys. They were attacking that secondary. I mean, and they wanted to attack it more. But, hey, to Buffalo's credit at times, I mean, they did cover pretty well. I mean, they had some breakdowns that the Chiefs absolutely took advantage of. They had some mismatches that the Chiefs took advantage of. But, by and large, I mean, I thought they covered pretty well. I mean, of Patrick Mahomes, even though he had a couple of actually designed runs, which you normally don't have designed runs for Patrick Mahomes, he had a few. But, he had to take off quite a bit just because, the pressure was getting to him. The offensive line, we probably will need to talk about at some point, did a decent job. I mean, it was not horrible today. And if anything, they blocked in a way that at least gave Mahomes outs. It gave him an area to run to and gave him an area to escape. And that's something that hadn't always happened this season. So, yeah, I mean, I think all of the receivers absolutely were a big part of this. I mean, even if you're DeAndre Hopkins, you only have one catch. Juju's 2 catches were absolutely tremendous. I mean, he only averaged 30 yards a catch. There's nothing wrong with that. So no, that's why I think this win was a total team effort. I think everybody contributed.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The critics have lost. Jalen Hurts has won.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
Jalen Hurts, what more is there we can say about this quarterback? The back and forth, the debates for years, the discourse that has just gone on and on and on, it's over. After today, after putting up 55 points on the Washington Commanders to get the Eagles to their second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years, there's nothing more you can say about QB1. It's done. It's over. Jalen Hurts has won. The critics have lost. Hurts all year allowed Saquon Barkley to be the Batman because he knew that was the best route to make a deep playoff run in 2024. He's taken a lot of heat for it. He's heard all week long and all year long that the Eagles are going to eventually have to pass, and if they do that, he can't carry them to the promised land. He heard all week that Jaden Daniels was the superior quarterback in this matchup. Today, he said, I'm done being Robin. I'm going to be the Batman. I am carrying you to the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley might have been the reason the Eagles got to the NFC title. Jalen Hurts is the reason they're playing in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. And he reminded everybody today how special he is when things are clicking on all cylinders. 20 for 28 passing, 246 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers, 3 rushing touchdowns, 4 scores total today for QB1. He did it banged up. He did it with the critics saying he couldn't do it. That's just what Jalen Hurts does. That's what he's been doing his entire career at Alabama, at Oklahoma, when he was a second-round pick that was supposed to be a backup. In 2021, he was supposed to just be a bridge quarterback. Then he was supposed to be a guy that wasn't starting anymore because the Eagles were going to trade for another quarterback. Then last year, the collapse happens, and this year happens, and people are wondering, is he the guy anymore? Is he regressing? Time and time again, take after take after take, and I have fallen victim to giving these takes out. I will raise my hand and say, Jalen Hurts, I'm one of the guys you've proven wrong over and over again. That is all he has done his entire career, and now there's nothing more to prove. Like, yes, there's one more game. Like, they need to get this done so this season ends in confetti. There is one more win. You could tell this time around, unlike after the 49ers game 2 years ago, there was no celebrating. QB1 didn't even want to touch that trophy when he was at the podium. This time around, he wants to finish the business. He wants to get his first ring and really cement his legacy as the greatest Eagles quarterback in franchise history. I already think, I don't want to say he is because Nick Foles got it done, but he's already the most accomplished from a quantity perspective. You could already make the argument he's the GOAT. One more win gets you that status. But no matter what now, the debate about can you win with Jalen Hurts as your franchise quarterback, can you win in this style, that discourse it's completely dead. And yes, has there been times throughout his career he's an inconsistent pocket passer? Is he the same style of player of a Joe Burrow, of a Josh Allen, of a Patrick Mahomes? No. But he's elite in his own way. And after today, it's time you accept it. Because again, what more is there to prove? Even if the Eagles don't get it done in 2 weeks, and I really believe in my heart they're going to, this team feels special. They have the adversity experience of 2017, and they have the skill and the complete roster of 2022. I really think this team, unlike 2 years ago, is going to get it done. But even if they somehow didn't, Jalen Hurts has proven that he's elite as a clutch player. He's elite as a mobile player. He is elite when it comes to the deep ball. And those traits with his leadership, yes, is that the same kind of elite play of past quarterbacks or other quarterbacks in the league? No, it's a different style, but it's still elite. Elite is elite, and Jalen Hurts is elite. You don't make it to 2 Super Bowls with a quarterback in 3 years without that player being a top-tier player at his position. And man, was he that today. Like today, Jalen Hurts, sure, is he hot and cold sometimes as a passer? Absolutely. Today, he was hot. Again, he finishes this game with just 8 incompletions, 246 yards and a touchdown. He was decisive. He was accurate. He was aggressive. He was throwing with anticipation. He was huge in money situations. A 4th down deep ball down the left sideline to A.J. Brown, one-on-one. 3rd down, here comes an all-out blitz. He escapes the rush, puts it on the money in the end zone to Devontae Smith. It led to a defensive pass interference call on Marshawn Lattimore. That sets up another touchdown. A 3rd and goal touchdown to A.J. Brown. Like, he was locked in. And what makes Jalen Hurts so great, so many traits, as I said. He's clutch. He saves his best performances for the biggest stage. He's mobile. He's one of the best deep ball passers I've seen. I mean, that ball to Brown today was a rope. It was dropped in a bucket for number 11. But one thing that Jalen is so special at is understanding his past mistakes and attacking them head on and fixing them quickly. Like, he really watched that tape back from the LA game last week, and he took that performance to heart because he held onto the football way too long in that game. He did not see the field well. The quick passing game was non-existent. What happened today? It felt like the ball was out in half a second every single play. Like, he was as locked in and decisive as ever. He was not holding onto the football. He was not taking bad sacks. He was throwing the ball away. He was throwing the ball deep. He was being aggressive. And what I loved about this passing performance from him and Kellen Moore was that it was more about players and not plays. Like, it was simple today. Let's just get the ball to A.J. Brown, to Devontae Smith, and to Dallas Goedert. And believe me, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley. So don't worry. Number 26, we're going to talk about a historic season continuing today. But what I loved about this passing performance is there was nothing special about just getting the ball to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown on a crossing route or a comeback, a 7-yard play that those guys then turned into more. And for weeks and weeks this year, it felt like they just weren't doing that. Like, just get the ball in space, get the quick passing game going, and give those guys a chance to do more. It doesn't always have to be a 40-yard route developing downfield. Like, yeah, that's what Jalen, Devontae, AJ, it's what they do best. But these guys also are some of the best run after the catch players in the league. And you saw that today. Like, I loved the game plan. I mean, listen to the box score. A.J. Brown, 6 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. 7 catches for Dallas Goedert, 85 yards. How about the jet sweeps today? Kellen Moore was dialing up for Dallas. The way they have utilized Goedert this playoffs, it's been a game changer. It's been the most consistent part of their passing game. But they needed more from their best player in the passing game, A.J. Brown, and they got an alpha performance today from A.J. against Marshawn Lattimore. Devontae Smith, 4 catches for 45 yards, had a couple big-time third-down conversions in the first half. In the second half, Jalen Hurts, Kellen Moore, the passing stars, Saquon Barkley, this offense saved their most balanced, dominant performance of the year for the biggest game of the year in the NFC Championship. And if they play like this on offense in 2 weeks, I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen on their A game, like Tom Brady was in 2017, this team's winning a championship. That was just a beautiful offensive performance from the Philadelphia Eagles to get to the Super Bowl, and it resulted in 55 points against your division rival. I mean, how sweet does that feel? Obviously, it's fun to get back to another Super Bowl, and it was fun in 2017 when they put up 38 points on Minnesota. It was fun 2 years ago when I was in the stadium. They put up 31 points on San Francisco, and I was not a guy that liked the 49ers, for sure. They're one of my most hated teams in the NFL. But to put up 55 on Washington when all week all you heard was how great Jaden Daniels is and how much Jalen Hurts holds this team back, for Jalen Hurts to just have an FU moment, a mic drop of a performance, a legacy performance. Like outside of Super Bowl 57, this was one of the best performances from an Eagles quarterback that I've watched in my lifetime in the postseason. To do that today, I will never forget this game. This historic season continues.
The Bills' playoff loss to the Chiefs.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
The Buffalo Bills fell to the Kansas City Chiefs 32-29 in the AFC Championship game, and the season is over. I don't have magic words for you, folks. I'll just tell you how I feel. And I feel deeply sorry for Bills Mafia. We deserved a lot better fate than that outcome. And you certainly wonder if it's ever going to be our turn. And you recognize how ripe the opportunity was based on what this team showed you this year. And I certainly feel very disappointed that the results weren't different. 4 times in 5 years, the Chiefs end the Bills season in the playoffs. It's unfortunate. And the Buffalo Bills are a great football team. They've been a great football team, and they don't have a lot to show for it. A lot of regular season success, a lot of postseason success, but you can't have the breakthrough against Kansas City. And it is very unfortunate that the rise of the Buffalo Bills coincides with this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty that's knocking on the door of a three-peat. I feel gutted for Bills Mafia. I think about my grandmother, who's 84 years old, who even through the worst seasons, when you know they didn't have a chance, would tell me, I feel it in my bones, this is the year. So many people just like that. So many people just like that deeply love this football team. And you're just still wondering, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs going to go get what? Their 3rd in a row? Their 4th in 6 years? It's hard to feel happy for them, right? Football is such a big part of Western New York, how deeply rooted it is into the fabric of the community. And you just felt like the city, the fans, the players, the coaches, the past players and coaches, people have put a lot into this football team, deserved a lot better fate. And I'm gutted for everybody. I know you're probably not even remotely interested in a rallying cry right now, but I'm not sure what other choice there is but to take the offseason, assess the operation, and then try to build the best possible team that you can to go out there and try again. There's a lot of commentary around this game before it was played that I found to be pretty goofy, that was rooted in, if not now, when? Well, is Josh Allen retiring this offseason? Because I don't think that's going to happen. And I do think that it's worth acknowledging that this was year one of a significant roster and coaching staff transition. Now, they obviously told us throughout the course of the season that they were absolutely a contender and one of the best teams in football and had the capacity to do the whole thing with the transition and both roster and coaching. It wasn't a capacity issue. So I don't really buy this whole thing that's, if not now, then never. That's silly, right? You have more and more opportunities, and you felt like the team was pretty healthy. You felt like the Chiefs team was certainly beatable, and it's disappointing to not do it, but let's not act like there's not another football season coming up where the Bills have the opportunity to go do it. Now, look, obviously, these opportunities are rare. You can't take anything for granted. Like, I'm not dismissing any of that, but let's not act like this is it, right? Bills had a great season. Only 2 teams in the entire NFL can say that they had a better year. And the unfortunate reminder that you get when you have a playoff exit is that only one team ends their season happy. And unfortunately, once again, it's not the Bills. And whenever these moments come through, and look, we've had a lot of them. I've been hosting this podcast since January 2019. This will be the 6th playoff exit that I have to recap with you and react to. I always just try to remind myself to just be honest and tell people how you feel. And I mostly feel disappointed. Disappointed by the result. Disappointed in the spot on the 4th and 1 that seemed pretty clear that it was a conversion that absolutely changed the momentum of the game. The Bills are driving to extend their lead, and instead it winds up being the Chiefs' ball, and they score a go-ahead touchdown. I'm disappointed that Dalton Kincaid couldn't make that catch to give the Bills a chance there on 4th and 5. I'm disappointed in how the game started, both offensively and defensively. And like I said, I'm disappointed for the fans. I'm disappointed for the fans. And it's not like there's another side of the coin where you find some level of joy. Like, imagine if the Bills and the Lions played in the Super Bowl and the Lions won the Super Bowl. It would be terrible to lose the Super Bowl. You could at least find a sliver of happiness for the people of Detroit that they've won this game. But if you're not a Chiefs fan, is anybody happy that they're about to win their 4th Super Bowl in 6 years? And you feel like the Bills have been the team that have had the best opportunities to prevent that from happening. 2020 AFC Championship game. You're up 9-0. You wind up getting killed. Then you lose in overtime. Then you lose by 3. Then you lose by 3. So if we're as disappointed as I am, there's still an ounce of me that is at least encouraged as well, because obviously the Bills are close. It's not David versus Goliath. Somehow, some way, eventually, it just has to go the Bills' way, and it just hasn't. Talk about the weaknesses that ultimately got the Bills eliminated. This game, both teams scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal. Both teams scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal. The Bills missed 2 two-point conversions. Kansas City got theirs and also made an extra point. They won by 3. Short yardage in this game killed the Bills. And the tush pushes were obviously dicey for most of the game, which is unfortunate because it really hasn't been that way. The Bills entering this game on tush pushes were 20 for 21. It's been a money play for Buffalo, and it's crazy to see people on social media talking about how silly the Bills were for their 4th down tush pushes when it's literally been a near flawless play for them all season long. But in this game, Josh Allen converts 2 out of 5 quarterback sneaks. It's the most sneaks stopped, 3, by any team since at least 2017. Allen was 20 for 21 this year. The Chiefs, dating back to 2022, had allowed 32 consecutive successful quarterback sneaks against them. What on earth, right? Like, what on earth? Now, maybe there's a conversation worth having about how it feels like this Bills team on short yardage, not just 4th and 1, but 3rd and 1s, even sometimes 2nd and 1, where they really just obsess over getting that 1 yard. What if you ran a regular play? What if it wasn't a tush push? What if you had some more variety? This was a game where obviously there was a different idea necessary on these 4th and 1s. Crazy that in that moment, all of a sudden, your money play didn't work. The saying goes, strengths get you to the playoffs, weaknesses get you eliminated. Brandon Beane says that in a playoff elimination game, you truly find out what your weaknesses are. So what were the Bills' weaknesses in this game that were also characteristic of the season that has the Bills not going to the Super Bowl? We'll start with defense, and in particular, third down defense. The Bills in 2024 were 29th out of 32 in third down defense, allowing conversions 44.1% of the time. The Bills gave up 356 first downs, the fourth most of any team in the NFL. And you're talking about a bottom 4 third down defense, giving up the fourth most first downs of any team in the league. Well, what happens in this game? Kansas City goes 5-9 on third downs, 56%, which is 12% higher than your normal rate. Can't get stops. Can't get stops. Not enough of them. Why? Defensive play calling, I think, factors into that. Pass rush factors into that. Coverage factors into that. The Bills this year, 23rd in EPA defending the pass. We're talking about a bottom 10 pass defense. It's been a problem all year. It was a problem in this game. Patrick Mahomes had a success rate of 64.7% on dropbacks, which, oh, by the way, is the highest of his career, and a 99th percentile game in terms of dropback success rate. Bills coverage, pass defense, simply not good enough. So I think that's the leading weakness, in my opinion. Now, I admire what happened in the second half, where they were able to force 2 punts. And, I mean, they give up the 3 at the end there, but, I mean, that was good to hold them to a field goal. Their only touchdown in the second half came after the 4th and 1 that I believe Josh Allen converted. So you love how they got better in the second half, but collectively simply not good enough.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. Used to go to comedy shows all the time. Me and my friends in college used to go all the time. It's a blast. You don't even need, alcohol. You just go and have fun and laugh. It's a comedy show. That's the whole point. Just go have fun. Gametime has a new called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
The loss in the NFC Championship game.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
55-23. The final score between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. 4 turnovers on the day total for the Washington Commanders offense. Just not the way that the Washington Commanders wanted to go out of this season, not the way that you wanted to see the Washington Commanders end this season, not the way that I wanted to see the Washington Commanders end this season. And when you listen to Jaden Daniels speak in his postgame press conference, if you did, let out a cuss word, a little bit more emotion than we've ever seen from him at a podium before. And it really just kind of speaks to the character of the competitor that is Jaden Daniels. just how serious he takes this business. This isn't, a kid who is, there is a kid in him who has realized his lifelong dream of being a starting quarterback in the National Football League. But this is very much a situation where you have, a professional NFL quarterback who came out with a mission, came out with an objective and a goal, and fell short of it. And even if you don't necessarily want to blame Jane Daniels for it, which I don't think you should, even though he did have the one interception, kind of a garbage time interception, really kind of a non-factor in the grand scheme of the game. I think you have to come away with a little bit more respect for him for the way that he's handling the post-game environment in this situation. Going through the locker room, though, talking to as many players as possible. It's a tough conversation to have with these guys. And, coming off the field, all they want to do is get home to their families. They just want to get their recovery going. They don't want to have cameras shoved in their face and all that stuff. So we try to do a really good job of being as respectful as possible, because they also understand that we have a job, and that job is to try to connect you, the fan, the consumer of their product, which is winning football entertainment, hopefully, right? We're trying to connect you to that and let you know what's going on behind the scenes in the locker room. And I'll tell you, none of these guys is taking this lightly. None of these guys is happy with the performance they put on, because I think to a T, every single guy would tell you that this isn't the Washington Commanders football team they want the football watching world to remember. We go back to the wild card round. You go into Tampa Bay, or into Tampa, Florida against Tampa Bay, and everybody says, okay, well, it's great that the Washington Commanders made it to the playoffs, but that's pretty much going to be the end of it. And it wasn't. You go into Detroit, and all you hear all week is Detroit media, Detroit fans talk about, it's great that you beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a different animal up here. This is Detroit. It's going to be a different outcome, and it's not. It's not a different outcome. Then we come into this week, and honestly, I actually thought, fandom, sure, rivalry, absolutely, trash talking, of course. But I really thought that the Philly media, Philly fans would have a little bit more respect for the team, given that you've seen them play twice. You've seen kind of what they're capable of when they are on firing on all cylinders. Lost a game to this very Washington Commanders team, but really a lot of disrespect this week leading up to this game as well. So I know a lot of Commanders fans, I know a lot of even Commanders media. Like, we go on these radio shows and people say, what makes you think the Washington Commanders have a chance to even stick with a team like the Philadelphia Eagles? And we try to lean on history and say, well, not only did they stick with them for 2 games, but they beat them in one. They probably should have beat them in a second one. So to come out here and end it this way certainly leaves a bad taste in your mouth for everybody. It's certainly going to be something that we talked to Dan Quinn about and Jaden Daniels about, and these veterans who are returning, guys like Frankie Luvu. I know Bobby Wagner flat out said in the locker room, he hopes that he hopes that there's an opportunity to right this. And he hopes that he has the opportunity to do that with this team next year. So I can tell you right now, Bobby Wagner wants to be Washington Commander next year. So, and I certainly hope that he and AP and everybody finds a way to make that happen. But I will tell you this: my biggest takeaway coming from this game that I want to share, as much as you might want to talk about the game, we are going to talk more about this game. Don't get me wrong, but I want to deliver the main message first. The main message first is you can never guarantee a team is going to go back to the NFC Championship game. You can never guarantee a team is going to go to the Super Bowl or go back to a Super Bowl once they've made it to one. And Dan Quinn knows that better than anybody, and certainly is feeling the pain of getting so close to getting back to that stage. Getting the opportunity to not rewrite history, right? History is always going to be written, but the opportunity to add a chapter to that history, a better chapter, a better ending to one of those stories. But as long as Jaden Daniels stays healthy, and there's always that wild card of health, but as long as Jaden Daniels stay healthy, you Commanders fans, you're going to have way more opportunities to celebrate runs like this and to cheer your team on in playoff games with an expectation that your team is going to at least be competitive, if not flat out win. This isn't the end of the road for that. This is the end of the road for this season. Absolutely. It's not the end of the road for that. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway that I really wanted to kind of just hammer home as we started this episode. As always, we're going to look at our X factor performances. My non-quarterback X factor coming into tonight's game was Marshawn Lattimore. And certainly Marshawn Lattimore had an impact on this game. Unfortunately, it wasn't the, return to the old school Marshawn that, I watched for years play, with the New Orleans Saints while I was covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, more of the a little bit rusty looking Marshawn Lattimore. And I got to give a hat tip to Nikki Javala of the Washington Post. She tweeted out during the game, during a stretch after Marshawn had drawn not one, but 2 penalties in back-to-back plays. Nikki tweeted, in 5 games with Washington, Marshawn Lattimore has totaled 6 penalties for a loss of 96 yards, which helps set up 20 points for opponents. That's big. You know what I mean? That's really big. Look, Marshawn is a passionate competitor. You know what I mean? This isn't just like a rabid dog out there just loose and unhinged. There's a lot of passion behind that play that you see, and even some of those penalties that you see. But those are absolutely things that, again, we're not going to get to talk about anymore this season. When you look back at this team coming back in 2025 for the 2025-2026 season, that's going to be you need to see a better Marshawn there. And I think you will. I think, getting healthy and getting to go through training camp and OTAs and mini camps and do all those things and be a part of the install from the start and all those parts of it, I think you're going to see a better version of Marshawn Lattimore next season. But unfortunately, not the X factor. He was an X factor to a certain extent, especially during that stretch there at the end of the first half, but not the X factor that we wanted him to be. Insiders chose Frankie Louvu, and I think Frankie had a very solid individual game. Certainly there was a stretch there if you watched the game. The continuous encroachments that led to the wild. I'm very curious to watch the TV broadcast of this, because I'll tell you, when the head official came up there on the mic and said Washington has been warned that one more encroachment penalty and will award points. That's wild to me. First of all, it's not something that I ever thought was even possible, but for them to just announce that in the stadium was just kind of wild to me. And I'd have to go through some rule books and try to confirm whether or not that's even a thing that can be done. So, I'm curious to see what the TV broadcast had to say about that. But ultimately, Frankie Louvu finishes with 4 tackles, a sack. The sack was a really big one, helped get the Washington Commanders off the field in a big spot. So Frankie Louvu certainly showed up for the team. I had a little bit of a conversation with him. Obviously, he did his interview, but I had a little side conversation with him. Just told him to keep his head up. He's a dog. He's a beast. All that stuff. We're going to get another opportunity to talk to these guys Monday in the locker room as they clean out for the offseason. So we'll have more for that as well coming out this week. What turned out to be the X factor, not really a player, man, but the turnovers. Again, you can't turn the ball over. We talked about this. I think we said no turnovers includes turnovers on downs by going for a 4th down and not coming up with the first down conversion. You can't do that. You can't do that against one of the best teams in the NFL. You can't do that against arguably the best team in the NFC. Certainly the team that's going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And you can't do it in a playoff environment. The Washington Commanders, unfortunately, did that. So turnovers ultimately undid the Washington Commanders.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
The Auburn Tigers find a way. They take down the Tennessee Vols 53-51. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Ben Taylor of the Auburn Network hanging out with us as we react to this instant classic, this incredible thriller, one of the most unwatchable games I've ever seen. But who cares? Who cares, Ben? In a game where Auburn was abysmal from behind the arc, the moment we will remember from this game is Miles Kelly from the corner, sinking it to give them the go-ahead lead. Oh, my goodness.
Zach, I really hate Tennessee.
Let's go.
I really love Auburn winning. And that's exactly what happened tonight.
That was incredible.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Ooh. I mean, there's so many different ways to go here.
Are you good? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. Incredible stuff. Miles Kelly, though. I mean, a dude who was ice cold, but played his heart out on defense and was so effective. He just couldn't get. Then he finally makes his first shot of the night. With 5-6 minutes left to go, it might have been more than that. And then I don't know. You just kind of had a feeling when it left his hand. It's like, oh, we're about to take the lead with just seconds left to go. Oh, you didn't feel that. You didn't feel that.
As soon as it dropped, I was like, oh my goodness, we just won the ball game. We legit just won the ball
Oh
game.
my goodness.
And then after that, it was all about free throws and who does what and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as he hit it, I was like, Miles Kelly, I love you so much. And here we are.
Yeah, I'm in a hotel room and I'm just screaming, Miles Kelly, Miles Kelly, Miles Kelly. I'm getting people that are texting me, all caps, Miles Kelly, Miles Kelly. What a freaking game. What a freaking game. In reality, the game was awful. Like, the game was so unwatchable. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the Auburn Tigers found a way. And that's all that really matters. And that's what this team is, right? Like, isn't that like what this team is? I mean, we saw them do this. We saw them do this against South Carolina to open conference play. We saw them do this on the road at Georgia last Saturday. Like, this team has found different ways to win.
Yeah.
With Janai, without Janai, playing great defense. Tonight was a total you-know-what show. I mean, and we'll talk about the officiating in a second. They don't deserve the first few minutes of this show. We'll give it to, we're going to talk about it. But right now, let's give credit to Auburn and what they did in key moments down the stretch here. But, man, like, this team, you and I did a show recently. It may have been Georgia. The last show that you and I did reacting, like, this is what great teams do. This is what great teams do. And for whatever reason, Ben, even though Tennessee had full control of the momentum when Auburn was down 4 with a few minutes left to go, there's just something about this team where you're like, I kind of think they're going to win this. I kind of think somehow we're going to pull it out. And we did.
A way to win. And they did. They do it each and every weekend. They find a way to win. And that's the thing is, people go, oh, well, they're not great. They don't do this great. They don't do this great. They
win.
They win. That's all it is. Just win. That's all it is. Just win. Zach.
Oh, my goodness.
Miles Kelly.
Miles freaking Kelly.
Miles Kelly. Please.
I mean, there's nothing else to say.
Please come hang out with me and Zach. We'll listen. We'll buy whatever it is. I'm telling you. Listen, when they threw it out to him and he drains that 3.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, we just won the game. Because of all that took place, all previous, all post, whatever, as soon as it hit, I'm sitting there going, I just want to buy you cheesecake. Please.
Yeah.
Let me buy
whatever
you cheesecake.
You want.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me what deal you want. We'll make it happen, my guy. We'll make it happen, my guy. Ben.
Zach, I'm sorry because the reason I'm weird about this is because this was supposed to be the team that beat Auburn. This was supposed to be the team that took Auburn and said, no, you're not worth what you are. And then Auburn brings out a guy, Janai Broome, limping all over the place. A freshman,
a warrior.
Point guard. Nobody's hitting threes. Everything that could go wrong with Auburn went wrong, and they still won the ball game. Holy moly.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at this in perspective here.
Miles Kelly.
Janai Broome was exceptional, right? I mean, all things considered. 16 points on an ankle that, like, he's clearly not 100%.
No.
Little shocked he played. When I heard he was playing, I'm like, oh, he must be fine. Like, he didn't look 100%. And so I'm a little surprised that they played him. But, I mean, there was a narrative saying, like, Auburn can beat Tennessee tonight without Janai Broome. That's false. That is false. If Janai Broome would not have played tonight, this game is not close, and it's sadly in Tennessee's favor. But 7 of 19, which isn't great, but a lot of that had to do with him getting rebounds around the rim, and there were possessions where he was shooting it 2 or 3 times or whatever, which is fine, whatever. 13 rebounds, a double-double. But this is what's amazing to me Is Auburn found a way to beat the number 6 team in the country with Denver Jones going 0 of 8, Chad Baker-Mazar going 0 of 5, Miles Kelly going 2 of 8. Oh my goodness, those 2 were huge. Dylan scored 4 points. Tahad went 3 of 9. And I mean, it's just like the worst case scenario for Auburn. Eric Kane, host of Locked On Vols, we did a crossover show that we posted yesterday afternoon. And his recipe for how Tennessee was to pull the upset was everything that just happened. Make it as ugly as possible, make it physical, hope certain guys foul out. And boy, this was Rick Barnes's game plan. And they executed. Just somehow Auburn won the basketball game.
Jay Billis said the same thing during the game. Jay Billis said, this is the worst thing that could happen for both teams. He said, I don't know who's going to win because they're trying to ugly it up as much as possible. And it was, oh, man, it was so bad. But, hey, Miles.
Miles Kelly.
I love him.
Miles Kelly.
I love Miles Kelly so much.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, Miles Kelly right now could say, hey, can I take your daughter to the prom? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Oh, my goodness.
Golly. He is.
What a stinking game.
I know. It was so fun. Now, let's get into the
No, the last second was fun. The game was miserable. That was like,
right.
I mean, that was I was texting with Eric, and like Tennessee folks are saying the same thing, right? Assuming he represents the entire Tennessee fan base, Locked On Vols host. I'm like, how do you think this is being called? And it's
he doesn't. Like, they hate it. They hate us, Zach. They hate us. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying the whole aspect of how the officiating, like how the game was being called, and it's like this is the biggest game of the SEC so far this season. This is one of the biggest basketball games so far this season.
Yep.
It's the biggest of the day. That's why game day was here.
Yep.
And the refs wouldn't let them play. And I'm fine with it being physical. And I'm fine with there being a quick whistle. But you can't change it minute by minute on how you're going to call a game.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. Used to go to comedy shows all the time. Me and my friends in college used to go all the time. It's a blast. You don't even need, alcohol. You just go and have fun and laugh. It's a comedy show. That's the whole point. Just go have fun. Gametime has a new called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Over the weekend, the Houston Cougars won the game of the year.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars.
Houston beats Kansas in a thriller over the weekend. I guess the game finished, I should point out, in double overtime. Houston wins 92-86. And there was just so many reasons they shouldn't have won that game. I got a couple things I want to break down in today's show that is brought to you by FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. We got more on that fun later, but I kind of want to just talk about this being like the best game of the year and the consensus of that on Sunday as people broke it down. This became a culture battle between two very distinctly different programs. And then I also, as I promised in the post game on Saturday night, did say I would talk to you some about the X's and O's in this one because it is a fun match between two great coaches. But on Sunday, with no college football games on Saturday and no NFL games on Saturday, college basketball carried the sports landscape, and Houston was at the top of that conversation as they came back and won a very improbable game, to say the very least. It was at the top of SportsCenter, at the top of YouTube pages, at the top of X, Twitter, social, whatever you're on. they were talking Houston Cougar basketball, and rightfully so. They earned it. Houston came back and won this game that just certainly no one outside of the program, outside of Coug fans, would have expected them to win. Certainly not a given point to the game. So Houston at the end of this one, Kansas should say, had an 80.6% chance to win based on ESPN's win probability score with 35 seconds left in regulation. That was as high as 86% with 90 seconds left when Houston was down 66-60. Houston forced overtime. Kansas would then have a 99% win probability rate with 18 seconds to go in double overtime when DeJuan Harris got the defensive rebound and was fouled. It was 79-73. He would then miss both free throws. Houston would come down and get kind of a casual, last few seconds, Emmanuel Sharp 3 to cut the lead 2-3 and go into an immediate full court press. Now, here's the key. Houston had already forced a 5-second violation in the clutch moments earlier, and so Kansas calls timeout. Houston gets the ball. Kansas takes the ball out. Houston puts JoJo Tugler on the ball, meaning that Milos Uzan is now covering Hunter Dickinson. Because of that switch, they wanted Tugler's length on the ball. Again, 6'8", 7'6" wingspan. You want him covering the ball, right? Uzan is then covering Dickinson. They try to inbound the ball to him. Uzan is able to tip it. The ball ends up in Malik Wilson's hands, the hero of the day, who takes a sidestep dribble back behind three-point line, hits the three to tie it up. About 2 seconds left. Kansas missed the half-court heave to go to double overtime. Double overtime was all things Houston. Now, again, 99% win probability for Kansas with 18 seconds to go, and Houston pulled it out. DeJuan Harris at the free throw line. It's a fifth-year starter. Was a starting point guard on the team when they won it all in 2022. Kansas is preseason number 1, now 5-3, and it feels like they can't make the conference. They were the number 1 team in America for the first month of the season. They beat Carolina, Michigan State, Duke. They can't beat Houston. Now, analytical folks look at this game, and when factoring a bunch of different typical point differentials for road stadiums, specifically different hard places to play like Fog Allen up there in Kansas, are already calling this, statistically and analytically speaking, the most impressive victory for an opponent given the place they were playing and who they were playing and so on, right? And I wonder about some of that because, analytics don't always count for everything. But it certainly did feel like an impressive game. The moment has been discussed as such, again, on all the major outlets since then over the course of today, Sunday. National basketball publications, Field of 68 and others, also calling for Jawan Roberts being in the All-American conversation. For what it's worth, I think he's also looking like he's the Big 12 Player of the Year. In 8 Big 12 games, he's broken 20 in 4 of them. 3 of the ones he did not break 20 in, he played less than 30 minutes because they were blowouts. And so you got to think when it's, gut punching time or whatever, it's time to find Jawan Roberts. And so I feel like that trend will continue as things go. And he was certainly the man. We'll get the X and O's at the end of the show, but he was certainly the man in this one. He's certainly the culture warrior in this one. And it was such a tremendous victory that people talked about all over the different necks of the internet and television, stuff like that, talking about Houston. And I got to say, it's nice to be there. Houston opened the season in the second game of the year playing fellow top 5 team Auburn on a neutral floor at the Toyota Center. I say neutral because it really looked like it was. They had the split tickets with A&M and stuff. Anyway, and lost that one, and then lost a couple in Vegas. And all those being fairly nationally recognized, people kind of put Houston on the back burner. And I don't necessarily think that it's important to anyone in the program to be top billing or anything like that. But it was a nice reminder for the national audience on ESPN. We can talk about it for a second at a later date, I guess, why they haven't staggered these games correctly, because they're going to miss the first few minutes on the ESPN live telecast. You got to go to ESPN Plus, ESPN News, bogusness. But live TV, everyone's watching Houston go to double overtime and steal the will to win. They stole the win because they stole the will to win out of the jaws of the Kansas Jayhawks. A tremendous victory in that one. And I want to address one comment and one kind of sway I see happening here, right? And there's a lot of people saying that there was some luck involved in this or some luck involved in that, and Kansas missed those free throws, or Kansas missed that rotation, or Hudson Dickinson just didn't catch that one ball. And it's crazy to me, absolutely crazy. As someone who watches between 12 and 15 basketball games a week these days, sometimes I speed them up and they all kind of blend together. And I'm watching for this show and scouting and then the high school stuff I do and so on. But it's crazy to me in all the basketball that I watch, how the team that plays harder finds luck. How often the team that works harder is the team that finds luck. And it's crazy that what the lucky this happened, lucky that happened, And I'm not saying there aren't unlucky things, injuries, the way the ball bounces, et cetera, that happen. But we also continue to find these close kind of games that, Houston got super lucky. No, they also worked and worked and worked harder. And the teams that work harder find more luck more often. If Kansas had won this game, no one been talking about lucky Kansas, right? Houston's banged up and Houston had a cold free throw night and you caught him at the right time. No one would have been talking about all of that had this been a lucky win for Kansas. No, because they couldn't find the luck. The luck comes to people that are working for it. And this was that working for Houston. There's no thing that says that just because DeJuan Harris missed those 2 free throws that Houston has to find a way to score 6 points in 17 seconds. That doesn't just happen. They made it happen. Houston's been doing this, has been doing this for a long time, and continues to get disrespected on it. I mean, they came to the Big 12 and won the whole thing last year by 2 full games the regular season. And they're a game up on Iowa State and Arizona presently. Those 2 teams play Monday night in a big Monday matchup, so one of them will be in third. And Houston has this tough stretch of the season. They play, it's like Baylor, Arizona State, Iowa State Tech in like a 14-day span. I'm not saying it's an easy road to do the repeat of the conference regular season championship, but if I'm picking someone to do it, I'm picking these guys.